clarity because it's all about releasing the negative stuff. But here, release is specific to working with meaning or belief. And so think about again this metaphor of the house. So you've got this house and you want to remodel your house. You want to refurnish your house. You've realized it's time. Okay. And so you've gone through these steps. You've you've taken a step back and you've recognized that you are the creator. You are the space of awareness in which all of this is occurring. So you have that power. You are not identified or attached to any of the existing content, which means that you have total freedom to make the change. Next, you envision your positive desired outcome. Next, you accept that that the present conditions exist and you are not going to fight against them. You're not going to be fearful of them. You just accept them. So you learn just to actually be present to what is. And that way you can continue to invest your energy into your positive desired outcome. Then you're going to praise or bless all beings, all things. And the reason for this is because you you want goodness in your life. So this is just it's you cannot afford to have enemies. Let's just put it that way. Enemies are going to be an enormous energy suck for you. So you cannot afford to have enemies. So I recommend that you overcome your enemies with love. And it might sound sappy, it might sound new agey or stupid, but it's the truth. It works. And the truth is, all your enemies are within. And I know you might say, but you have lots of outer enemies. Yes, but the true enemies exist within. Because if you come back to that first step, you have to start to understand and recognize that all of this is happening as a play in consciousness, and you are that consciousness. And there's nothing that's happening outside of that. And the causes are always within. So if you want to produce change, you have to work at the level of cause and you have to accept responsibility. Okay. So then when you understand all of the rest of that, then let's take a look at now you're at a point where now let's say you've managed to clear a lot of the obstacles. You've produced the furniture for your new house. You're ready to remodel it. You've got everything ready to go. But now you have to actually be willing to release what's already there. This is a very critical step, and a lot of people get hung up here. They're just working the first couple of steps. Usually people are just working the envision step, if anything, right? And it's like, that's only going to take you so far because if you've now got your house still packed with stuff, and a lot of people think about this metaphorically over time, they become like hoarders, right? It's like their house, their metaphorical house, their life is packed from floor to ceiling with stuff. And they just sort of like scoot by these little passageways in their house. It's so cluttered with stuff, which is why oftentimes, unfortunately, as people age, they become more set in their ways, more reactive. It's like the world should just be as I want it to be, and flip it the bird if it's not the way that I think it should be, and everybody else can screw off. That seems to be an attitude that people take more and more in their lives, but it doesn't need to be that way. That's a result of the clutter from not releasing. And so that stuff that needs to be released can show up in many forms, but I'm going to specify one here, which is one of the most powerful ways to work with this stuff. And that's in the form of meaning or belief. And there are many different ways of releasing belief. I have worked with a number of them effectively over time. I've recently come across the work of Morty Lefko, and I found that this process is extraordinary. It's really a next level thing. And so I'm going to share that with you in 4 minutes, which is obviously not going to do it justice, but um, I want to again emphasize that releasing belief on a consistent daily basis is so important and powerful because otherwise you do all the other stuff, all the other steps, all the other work, but then when it comes down to actually making that change, it's like you've set everything up, it's all there ready to go, but you can't actually move the new furniture in because you've still got from floor to ceiling packed with stuff. You got to clear that stuff out. So that's what this release step is about. So first of all, you need to get an inventory of your beliefs. And particularly here, we're talking about those beliefs that are particularly limiting for you. I mean, in the long run, you want to let go of all beliefs because ultimately all beliefs are limiting. But obviously, beliefs can be more or less useful. Many of the beliefs that you have, like most of the rest of us, are very unhelpful. And so, like some common beliefs are I'm not good enough, I'm not important, I'm unlovable, I'm stupid. Okay, these are the kinds of beliefs that many of us have. And they're obviously limiting and problematic for us. So if you have your metaphorical house packed with these beliefs, then you don't have room to move in the nicer, newer stuff. So you're just stuck with those old ways, those old patterns, those old perspectives, which means you're going to keep getting more of the same. This is why people self sabotage. They do all of the other work, but then when it comes right down to it, it's like, okay, here we go, ready, 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 ready. And then it's like, no, sabotage, because I'm not ready to let go of I'm not good enough. I'm just going to keep that one. It's like, okay, where are you going to move in the new stuff? Nowhere, because your house is packed with all of these negative limiting beliefs. So you've got to release them. So the first thing is you got to make an inventory of them. Now, one process by which you can do this, which is extraordinarily simple and powerful, is this. When you're doing the envision step, so every day, take a few minutes to imagine your desired outcome, to put your attention on your desired outcome. And if you're doing this correctly, what will happen is that you will start to notice that your mind will offer up your limiting beliefs, right? So if you're saying, it's like, okay, so you start to imagine your desired outcome. Okay, I'm experiencing this, if you want a loving relationship, I'm experiencing harmonious, loving relationship. Okay, you just imagine that every day. And then your mind will start to offer up why you don't believe that's possible for you. Okay, so it will say, uh, well, I can't because I'm not important. I can't because I'm not lovable. I can't because I'm unworthy. I can't because uh, because other people are dangerous. I can't because fill in the blank. Okay, all the beliefs that you have, be aware of them, write them down. Writing them down is so helpful and important. And I just want to clarify because a lot of people, some people, I don't know about how many, but some people uh, are fearful of doing this. And the reason they raise this objection often is because they say, well, Joey, didn't you say that there's this law of attention? Whatever I put my attention on, that's where my energy goes and that's what grows. So if I put my attention by writing down my negative belief of I'm not good enough, isn't that giving it the power to I'm not good enough? Well, yes, but unfortunately, that's a superficial understanding that works against you. So I want to clarify for you so you can understand. Um, you're already giving your attention to that belief unconsciously. It's already getting an enormous amount of your energy. It's playing out in your life over and over and over and over and over. It's already dominating you. So writing it down is not going to give it any more energy. I promise you that. There's no way that writing it down will give it more energy. But what writing it down will do is it will make it conscious. So up to now, it has been largely unconscious. Now, you might every once in a while marginally become conscious of some of these beliefs, but then you quickly shove them back under the rug, so to speak. And as long as you're doing that, it's very difficult to make the change. It's very difficult to release a thing that you're not acknowledging actually is there. And so to write it down forces you to make it conscious. If you have to actually put it into words to write it down, that means it is now conscious. So I often say that's 90% of the work. It does most of the heavy lifting for you just to write it down. So please do yourself a favor and write down the limiting beliefs. Do not be fearful of it. Just please understand, you do not have to have any fear or worry about it. They don't have power over you. You have been giving them power and you can reclaim that power. Step one is to write them down. So be empowered in this, be courageous and confident, and know that this is a positive, loving step that you're taking for yourself to write them down. No harm will come from this, only good will come from it. So now that you have written them down, you've identified the limiting beliefs that are in the way of you achieving your desired outcome. Now the the next step is just to release them. So even though I'm telling you that there are techniques that you can use for releasing, and I'm going to walk you through briefly, very briefly, the an approach that can be very effective for this. I want to preface that by saying, don't get hung up on the techniques. The techniques can be helpful, and that's important, but don't give so much power and importance to the technique because really, fundamentally, it just comes down to awareness and intention. Awareness and intention. The awareness is the most important thing. That's why I say just making it conscious does not at least 90% of the work. Because once you are aware of it consciously, that will start to put into motion everything that will start to release it. So if you just continue to put your conscious awareness on it in this open way on a regular basis with the intention of releasing it, that in and of itself will give the result. So you please, again, don't get hung up on the technique. Don't think that you have to perfect the technique or you have to have the perfect technique or any of the rest of that. Have absolute confidence and know the truth, which is that awareness and intention is sufficient. That's the fundamental power that makes everything work. So when you focus that on on releasing a belief, that will do the work for you. The technique is just icing on the cake. The technique will just help to nudge things along a little bit faster. So again, just want to reemphasize that the awareness plus the intention to release it is enough. If you just are persistent and consistent with that, you will release it. And what that means is you just notice every time it's showing up, right? Because then you'll start to gain awareness about what's going on and how that's affecting you and why you even are believing that. And so that will start to loosen it and eventually release it. Okay, with that.